This episode is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Airbnb. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much by going to airbnb.co.uk/host.
Yeah. So we had a nice time at the Curzon Mayfair for a premiere of the Bikeriders, which we're reviewing this week.
The blue carpet.
A blue carpet.
It's not always red.
No.
They went for the blue of the blue sky in the poster.
Yeah.
It was sort of a baby blue.
Nice event though, busy. We were sort of, there was like sort of two sides of the carpet. You had like, actually three. You had at one end like crazy fans.
Yeah.
Who were just like those kind of autograph collecting, slightly odd types. And then
Clutching their Elvis memorabilia, waiting for Austin Butler to arrive.
Yes, waiting for Austin Butler. And then on one side, you've got like the traditional media slots, like Sky, Universal, Virgin Music, blah, 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 Capital FM. And then on our side is like, shit-munching influencers, just desperate.
Yeah.
We've got a following.
Attention seekers like us.
We've got a following. We're with other little influencers who are recognised, just there filming.
I mean, some of them are much bigger
content.
than us.
Oh, a lot bigger than us, yeah.
But
we got to ride the bike.
Actually, we definitely also we were like chaperoned through the crowd to the right spot. It was
PR.
We don't normally get like personally supervised.
Our
like that.
lovely
That's a
PR
nice
friends
way.
who always look after us and are very kind and
well.
helpful. They're like, yes, we'll just take you straight through, no
Yeah.
queuing.
Are you ready to come through? Yeah, well, come on.
Yeah, so you can stand.
Security
this
guard
bit.
said, "Hang on, sorry," and they're like,
Sorry.
"No, they're with me.
They're with us."
Oh, we're with them."
And we just go past the shit muncher queue. Like, sorry, guys.
Sorry,
We're
we're
going
brand new
straight
shit
through.
munchers.
We saw Austin Butler. We saw Jodie Comer.
Yeah.
They all looked fabulous. Tom Hardy even.
Basically, went to the loo. James went to get some drinks. Went to the loo. The loo in the Curzon Mayfair is smaller than this table. It's like it's a sardine tin, and
Elbows brushing against each other.
And I sort of walk in. I'm like, okay, there's no room here. There's a stall. So I'll go in the stall. Anyway, go in the stall. Come out. Everyone is gone, except for this one man stood in front of me. And this one ape, this one like huge man, this gorilla of a man, is Tom Hardy. He's just right there, and he looks dead at me. And as he's drying his hands, sort of like a. And I was like, cool. And I was surprised because he hadn't walked on the carpet yet. So he'd clearly like run in just to use the loo. We hadn't seen him yet. And then he'd popped out. So he just clearly just really needed to go. And I'm just there washing my hands next to him as he's sort of rubbing his head. And I don't want to say anything because he really is quite a big man. He's got a shaved head and he's huge.
He's dressed like a Navy SEAL off duty. So he's got like combat boots, cargo trousers, and like a black tight top. Kind of looks like Bane if he had just finished a shift and took the mask off.
If he wasn't Tom Hardy, he looked like he would have been
security.
Eton, I think, in a pub in East London in the 1970s, about to glass someone. No disrespect to Tom Hardy, but it's just the energy. You know?
And like his, the lovely Edith Bowman, friend of the show, and does these little sort of very surface questions. That's not on Edith Bowman. It's more like given the amount of time, the number of people you need to get through. It's like, so what does this character mean to you? And I could just sense that like he's prickly and difficult, and he'll hear your question, but his first instinct is, well, why would I ever think to ask a question like that?
So that was a nice little surprise for the Bikeriders, and
we posted stuff on our social media and also a little more extra behind the scenes of our shenanigans on our Patreon, so you can get that and more on our Patreon. Speaking of which, we just recorded our third episode of
Double Take.
That is available for our patrons at the Siren tier. If you want to check that out, there is a link in the description. We talked all about the 10 sci-fi films that lost the most money in the last 10 years, sort of off the back of the Furiosa currently looking like it's not going to do very well. And we looked back at the list and they were like, I think almost half of those you and I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
Real sort of come and gone expensive stinkers. So you can go check out that episode now. We also talked about like Paddington,
Peru, and
House of the Dragon.
Just talk about that
stuff. Just talk about our excitement levels for that, where we're at with it, why it's probably going to be great. And that's great. And if you do jump onto that tier, you get access to all the Double Take episodes. So it's even more value for you now if you didn't do it the last couple of weeks.
Just sitting on a gold mine, just ready there, and you get access to the Discord where loads of people have been chatting. When we get to the emails, we got a lot of emails about Hitman, because we reviewed Hitman last week, if you haven't checked that out already. But like, we reviewed Hitman, and what a divisive film.
Really interesting to see some emails come in this week and going, just not for me. People go, oh, it's just what I was looking for.
For a film that is inherently not radical or political in any sort of way, it's somehow very divisive.
So stay tuned for that later when we go through your emails.
It's been great to follow that conversation on the Discord when everyone's sort of chatting about that in real time.
And also a massive thank you to our producers, Aidan and Finn, for your support on the show. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's great. We are electrified. We're here, and we've got 2 movies to review, 2 hot releases. As we mentioned, we'll be reviewing The Bikeriders, which is the new movie with the cast we've just mentioned and the man I peed with, and Inside Out 2. The sequel, 9 years later, we returned.
That surprised me. I thought it was like sort of a cool 6, but it's 9.
It's a hard 9. Yeah. It's like long enough to wait to think, oh, we might do a sequel. Oh no, we better do a sequel.
And I know animations, Pixar, they do take their time, but even still, I was like, that feels more recent in my brain than it actually is.
Because it's long, like realistically, that child who we followed Inside Out would have grown up. Is that the child in the original Inside Out, who's Riley's like 11 or something?
Yeah,
is she
she's now 13.
She would be like 24 now. no. She'd be like post-college, but you know what I mean.
She's just smoking, working in a bar.
My emotions are shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got those 2, and then we've got emails and more sound game. Let's do it. We love it. This is a quick message brought to you in partnership with our friends at Airbnb.
So, George, a good friend of mine who I used to work with in telly is going to work on a famous reality TV show in Marbella for 2 one-week periods.
I think I know the one.
It's very exciting. She's very much looking forward to it. And I told her she should host her flat on Airbnb while she's away.
Yeah, brilliant, of course.
Just makes sense. Like, while you're working away, set up on Airbnb, make a little bit of extra cash while you're there. Perfect, no-brainer.
I know, and also like quite a nice feeling to have when you come back from an actual work trip to have a little bit of extra pocket money to put towards your actual holiday. Like an actual holiday.
Absolutely.
Oh, very smart.
Yeah.
I think people forget that, like, I mean, we've all stayed in Airbnbs. Like, we've all done it. But, like, I think we forget that the people who host Airbnbs are just people like us. Like, you can do it yourself.
I've got a couple of holidays coming up, and I was looking at what other flats in my area are going for, and I thought I should just do this. It makes sense, especially if you do those little work trips. You go on these little breaks away. You go, hang on, I can host my flat on Airbnb. Boom, perfect.
Also, like, your home is there. Like, you're going to be away, but your home is still there. Like, you might as well use it. If you have a home, you have an Airbnb.
Totally. If you haven't thought about it, you should look into it. And guys, your home might actually be worth more than you think. Find out how much by going to airbnb.co.uk/host. Yeah.
Inside Out 2. It's back 9 years later. The emotions are still there. Joy, sadness, anger, fear, disgust. Not the first 5 emotions I typically think of within myself.
And they're like 4 negative ones and 1 positive one.
Yeah.
Like there's no, I guess, joy, excitement. I'm trying to think what other positive ones there are. They kind of all bundle into joy, but it's like there's a lot of negative potential.
Yeah.
Like if joy isn't there,
they all fall apart.
It falls apart.
So we return to the character of Riley, who's now 13, and she's still playing ice hockey and living in San Francisco with her parents, voiced by Carl McLaughlin and Diane Lane. And she is growing up, and after Inside Out 9 years ago, where the message was you can't have joy without sadness. You can't have one without the other. It's okay to be sad sometimes. So we see the emotions working in synchronicity together perfectly. But of course, she's 13. What's going to happen? The P word, puberty. She hits puberty.
Puberty button.
Puberty button appears. A siren, not that kind of siren, but this kind of siren appears. Puberty is kicked off. Whoa, chaos. And you have with
bulldozers.
That bulldozers, construction men, and in come new emotions. 4 new emotions. You have ennui, envy, anxiety, and embarrassment. And they're sort of complex and strange. And you initially get this sort of clash of emotions as they're all trying to find their roles around each other, while Riley, our main character, is going off to hockey camp for the week with her friends. And, she's in middle school, but she's thinking about high school. Her, maybe her friends and her are taking different directions. And soon enough, the emotions find that they're butting heads more than they should do. And then the new emotions are kind of like, right, we've got this from here. You're out of here. Voice cast, just amazing voice cast.
Yeah, really
Amy Poehler returns.
Really well cast as Joy, I think.
Now you've got Maya Hawke, Iowa DeBerry, the whole gang, new people coming in, which is great, and really, really good voice cast. Some new replacements as well. Pretty sure Bill Hader did the voice of Fear before.
Yeah,
now it's Tony from Arrested Development. Can't remember his last name. Anyway, Inside Out 2, the return of the Insides Outs. The emotions, all of them. James?
Too many emotions. Almost.
We saw this 3 hours ago, by the way.
Yeah, we saw it this morning. I remember Inside Out 1. I think it continues to have this really ingenious concept, just so well thought out and weirdly surprisingly accurate about the frontal lobe consciousness of ideas that come and then they're taken to the back of the brain and stored in different ways. I think the whole construction of how the human brain works still is so charming and funny, and it really works when you confront real life scenarios. And like my favorite is when they actually cut to the mum and dad. I actually think that was the best sequence of the first one, and this one continues to go. I had a really nice time with it. I think it's always like well executed. I don't think I'm like elated with praise for it, but I laughed a lot.
Yeah.
I had lots of nice little chuckles where I think the film's much smarter than I thought it could have been with the concept. I think it's really well voice acted. It continues to be beautiful, and I had a really nice time with it. I like the idea of, joy typically is the very high functioning emotion that pilots Riley's life, but anxiety comes in and is actually a very high functioning emotion that works in a lot of scenarios for Riley. And that's sort of this really nice message of like, as we age, maybe we start to have less and less joy, and that's something that they need to grapple with. And I think that's just really smart and sad. I think it really, really works. I think I think it's great for kids, but there's so much for parents and adults to get from that and have a really, really fun time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the complete Pixar package in that respect. Like we didn't come away thinking, oh my God, this is new heights, but it's got everything you want. It tickles the brain, it tickles the eyes, tickles the heart. It's got when I saw Inside Out like 9 years ago, I liked it, but occasionally it started to over-conceptualize itself. As we talked about before, with all the
it's a lot
personality. It is a lot, and that's what we subsequently saw with a lot of Pixar films like Soul, which was very over-conceptualized. And I mean, you saw Elemental, but you said you liked it. But
Amorphous Blob, Pixar
has a
brand.
what if thing, and I got a bit tired of that, and I was worried about that going in. But actually, I found this pretty not too over-conceptualized. Like I could follow it.
There are parts of it that do feel side questy. So like the inherent end of the first act is our main emotions are sent way over to the other side of consciousness, and they have to snake their way back. Like that's essentially the structure of the film. And a lot of it you are a little bit like, but now we're stuck through here, and there's a sarcasm, which is a really funny joke, like this chasmous void that only his carcass. I'm like, it's a little bit sort of we zigzag around back and forth to get there, but it's not overly long.
No.
It continues to be entertaining,
very
and funny.
pacey.
Never got bogged down in a concept that was it couldn't tackle.
No, and there was a good couple of Easter eggs there. Did you catch the Toy Story Easter egg?
Oh no, go on.
Well, it's if you look out, there's a bit. This is not really spoiler because it's an Easter egg. It's early on in the beginning of the film. They're looking at all the emotions are looking out at the islands that they've created, and Joyce says, "Look, Sadness, look at it's thing over there." And she gives her a pair of binoculars, and the binoculars are the toy binoculars from Toy Story 2, which have the little feet and the red suckers.
Nice,
I love the voice cast. I think are just really, really spirited. Normally with animations, like the voice cast is just there, but I really, really did appreciate them. And like Phyllis Smith, who does Sadness, like every time she speaks, she just really makes me laugh. Oh God, she's so sad. Oh God, I don't want to do that. And like Phyllis Smith, if anyone remembers from The American Office, was not an actor. She got her role in the US Office because she was a casting person. The way she was reading the script was so sad, like Sadness in Inside Out, that they ended up casting her. So I love that she's in this, and it just really, really made me chuckle. Some great gags and very breezy, spirited. Never really felt it sort of lagged at any point. Wasn't too baggy in places.
No,
just kind of very breezy, good Pixar.
Solid.
Stamp.
I still stand by. I think the concept is more genius than like maybe a long feature-length film is in itself. Do you know what I mean? All of the ideas, and I think that you could get really playful and do loads of really great shorts with it. Like I think that whole sequence with the parents in the first one is one of the most like ingenious things of how mums and dads and children are conceptualizing different things in front of them. Like that's so funny.
We didn't get a Pixar short before this one. Do you remember they used to do the little short? Because when I saw Inside Out the first one, I had Lava. And there was like Bow, and we didn't get
no, that. And they're usually commissioned to learn about technology. So like they'll often be like, if it's lava, we want to know how to animate molten rock, and Bow might be steam. And then like there was one which is water, which is the island one, which went into Moana and Luca. So it's usually let's figure out how we can animate water, and that then becomes it.
It was
quite interesting. You can watch behind the scenes all about how they make those. It's really cool.
And we were in a screening room with a couple of kids, and they stayed focused throughout.
Yeah,
didn't fidget too much.
It was it's a Friday morning,
10 o'clock
on a Friday morning
in the middle of King's Cross.
We thought we had it to ourselves, and then a mum and two kids came in. We were like, oh,
how dare they?
Other people. But yeah, I think it's good fun. I think if you took yourself to see it, you'd have fun. You could definitely take kids to see it, and they'd have a good time, and so would you.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
What you think it would be Inside Out 2.
Go and enjoy it. It's a nice time.
So, we went to the premiere. We got to see it nice and early in a nice busy screening. Lots of buzz, lots of people. Yeah. And so this is the Bikeriders. It stars Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer. Sirens on our end.
Yeah, Sirens on our end again.
It's directed by Jeff Nichols, and we managed to go, oh my God, those real sirens.
This happens when we record here in the day.
It's terrible. We managed to get to go to press screening on it. And the first thing to know is that it is based on a photo book of the same name by someone called Danny Lyon. And we were actually treated when we were sitting down to our seats of this carousel of photos, which were, I think, what we thought were stills from the film. And
they were.
Yes. Oh, sorry. They were stills from the film.
Yeah.
What we didn't realise is that these were actually recreated stills from this very book, which actually, when we got to the end credits, and a lot of people stood up and left.
Yeah, do stay for the end credits this film.
Stay for the end credits. And you and I actually went, oh no, these are like really accurate scenes from the film that have been recreated in this film. And so that's the sort of spirit of this film. It's taken this sort of aestheticized bike rider culture from the late 1960s, early 1970s in the Midwest of America, and it's made a story. The film is a story of these people, and you have a Mike Feist playing Danny, who interviews with a microphone Jodie Comer's character, who is quite funny. Of all the characters I thought would be chewing the scenery the most in this film, I actually didn't think it would be Jodie Comer, but she's got one of those accents, you know.
It's crazy Midwest accents.
You know what I mean? Talking about Florida, Florida, we went there, so I married him. I married him 5 weeks later. And she's just having the most fun with an accent. And she's telling the story of sort of in parallel to the events of the film and what happened and who did what. You've got Tom Hardy, who plays Johnny, and Johnny is this middle-aged, I think he's a truck driver, but you never really sort of see that much into his life. After being inspired by seeing Marlon Brando on television, he comes up with this idea to create a biker club, and he gets a bunch of young men in his area, and they all sort of wear the same jacket, and they're called the Outlaws. And it sort of immediately has this incredibly infectious effect on other men, and especially young men. And you've got Austin Butler, who plays Benny, who just looks gorgeous in this film. He's perfectly coiffed hair, ripped off sleeves, very tasseled. Who's also got a sort of love story going on with Kathy, who's Jodie Comer's character. And what sort of starts to happen is, there's sort of this blend of not obeying the law, driving too fast, drinking, bar fights. You've got this parallel story of other disaffected young men who are wanting to join into this gang called the Outlaws. And there's even different groups of it forming in other states. And Tom Hardy sort of slowly realizing that this thing he created is actually starting to get a little bit out of control. It's a story about destructive tales of violence, trying to find legacy and to pass on something, when really what we're passing on is maybe more weighted than just a bike club. We've got Mike Feist, who I already said in there, Norman Reedus, Michael Shannon, who I think they just said, Michael, do you fancy just being Michael Shannon for a couple of weeks? Makeup? No, we'll just scrub up your hair. We'll get a jacket on you. You just have fun, Michael Shannon, and we'll throw you in. Boyd Holbrook, Toby Wallace, Damon Herriman is in there. A really, really good cast. George, how did you get on with the Bikeriders?
So I think, I should say, was going into it, or as the film began, I was immediately reminded of. So have you seen any other Jeff Nichols movies?
Remind me, Jeff
have
Nichols
you seen
films.
Midnight Special?
God,
Michael
I have,
Shannon,
but I don't remember.
Adam Driver, Alien Boy kind of thing.
Seen Mud.
You've seen Mud, right? Okay.
Not Take Shelter.
Not Loving. You've seen Loving?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, so Jeff Nichols, this is a Jeff Nichols movie, and he hasn't made a movie in probably about 7 years. And when I was watching, as soon as the film began, I was immediately seeing this film within the context of the films he's made. And Jeff Nichols makes films about an alternative vision of America being interpreted in a different way. So in Take Shelter, you have the story of Michael Shannon's character, who is convinced that a biblical disaster is about to happen, and he becomes obsessed with building a shelter in his garden, despite the fact that everyone tells him he's insane. That's his version, that's his world. It's like, that's his right as a man, he says, to build his own shelter. And I haven't seen Mud, but you have McConaughey similarly living his own life kind of on the peripheries of society. And then Midnight Special even, which is about, Michael Shannon and Joel Edgerton trying to squirrel away this child who is connected to extraterrestrial life and might have some power, and is at odds with the kind of established intelligence agencies and what they want from him. And it's like they're trying to get their own life there. And Loving as well, but based on a true story, which is about an interracial couple in the Deep South, I think in the 60s, who again are just trying to live their lives, but in a time when people aren't allowing them to do that. And that's when the Bikeriders began. I immediately saw the connection, and I was like, Jeff Nichols is interested in people who are interpreting America in their own way. And so you have this biker gang, the Vandals, who are, have their own rules, have their own codes, and Tom Hardy's character has set that up for that reason, which I thought was really interesting. What I also think is interesting is I will get to my thoughts, but I think it's just important for context, is that the role of the motorcycle within like US culture.
Oh man.
It's really, this film really reminds me of how tied to the American identity it is, in the same way that like riding a horse was once. It was taken over by that. There is something inherent to the American dream about getting on a motorcycle, the independence, the freedom, also the manifest destiny, the driving through a massive country that reveals itself to you on the open road, and that is your right, and your self-governance, your self-determination. I know this sounds strange for two British people to say that, but obviously that's the way it's perceived.
There's also this, if you look at late 60s, early 70s, you've got this generation of young men whose fathers were either killed or traumatized by world wars.
Exactly.
So you have this whole generation, that's how they often intellectualize the bike rider, the modern cowboy at the time. It was like men without a strong sense of male identity forming together in gangs, redefining what it was to be an American, that cowboy, that bike rider, lone ranger, and whether or not that was for the better or not remains to be seen. But this film, I think, really successfully
captures
unpacks that whole side of it.
So you have the fact that the whole idea of being a bike rider is so symbolic and iconic and tied to the idea of being American and what Americana is. And then when you put the cinematic lens on that, there is something also iconic in cinema about being a bike rider. So Tom Hardy's character sees Marlon Brando in The Wild One, and everyone will know the image of Marlon Brando in The Wild One with the leather jacket. Easy Rider as well. There's something, when you apply the cinematic lens to the motorcycle, it just kind of works. It kind of renders that myth large. And so when the film began, I was very much thinking, oh, this is a film that's dealing less in characters and people and more in like myths and ideas. Austin Butler's character Benny, you could argue he's not actually got the most depth to it, hasn't got the most range to it. But that's why halfway through I thought, I think what I'm going to do is read this as that he's being presented more as a mythic figure. We're dealing with American myths here. I might be completely overreading and intellectualizing it, but I'm just saying when I was watching it, that was going through my head. I think that's what Jeff Nichols is trying to do. I think parts of it remind me, in a way, also like The Godfather. There's like a slight Godfather structure in the sense that you have Tom Hardy is kind of... Tom Hardy's character is inspired by Brando, but literally like Brando in The Godfather, brooding over his legacy, wondering about what it's going to be, thinking about handing it over to a younger generation. You have Jodie Comer very much in the Diane Keaton role of the outsider looking in, kind of bemused by it all. So I quite enjoyed it. I quite got a lot out of it. I do... understand if people were reserved on it, had less reservations. I do think that every time I watch a Jeff Nichols film, I'm always slightly underwhelmed. But I think of all the ones I've watched, I think I got most out of this because it was very handsomely presented. You and I are both photographers. Like, it was just beautiful to watch and see that rendered.
Oh, and then seeing the photography of the book matched with the photography they recreated, and then watching the film was really stimulating and great.
And I do think it's a film that understates. So every so often there'll be a moment where a character like Michael Shannon's character will reveal some dialogue about himself. He'll talk about, his relationship with the Vietnam War, and you like this sort of very brief story he tells about wanting to be drafted, but he could, even though he passed the physical, he was rejected because they said you're an unsavory character, and there's this idea that these men have been rejected and what it does to them. And in fact, you have a great, just mentioning the acting talent there, you have a great scene where just sat round one campfire is Tom Hardy, Austin Butler, Jodie Comer, Michael Shannon, Boyd Holbrook, Norman Reedus, Daryl from The Walking Dead or something. It's just really great to have them all in one space. Tom Hardy's probably doing the most interesting work, actually.
This is what we said. We said the poster will tell you it's Austin Butler, Jodie Comer, and Tom Hardy, which we thought, is he going to have a very limited but impactful role? And actually, I would argue his screen time is more than Austin Butler's, maybe matched with Jodie Comer's because she has the narration task. It's
that weird thing where it's like, I remember having a conversation with someone once, which is like, with The Shawshank Redemption, who's the main character? Is it Andy or is it Red? And in the same way, it's this. It's like, well, Jodie Comer's doing most of the talking. She's narrating us. She's our eyes into this world. But Benny is the lead. But it's Tom Hardy's character,
who's the small one inside,
who's the small one, who's actually kind of driving the kind of
Tom
main
Hardy
arc.
Much more of a protagonist than Austin Butler is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also, with that context I mentioned, what I think makes it interesting, the Bikeriders, is that there's this parallel happening with what's happening with bike riding society as what was happening with American society. And there's a line at one point where Jodie Comer says to Mike Feist, "Oh, it all turned bad in '69. You weren't around in '69." Yeah. It's like, well, that's very much what happened in America. So 1969, bad things happened. It was a dark turn. So the ideas are really interesting. There are lots of ideas interesting there, and I like that. And those ideas broke through, I think, enough for me.
Yeah.
But I do think that ultimately the film is called The Bikeriders, and in a way it remains as broad as and sort of ill-defined as that title is. Bikeriders, they're bike riders, they ride bikes.
Yeah, they ride bikes.
There's nothing really, it doesn't quite get any deeper than that.
There's no like grand adventure or escalation of the plot that warrants the bike riders to become more than people who have barbecues and spin around in the mud and just have a good time and get together.
It's kind of elliptical, episodic, and I think one thing I think is a shame is that like it's broody, and I think probably a bit too broody.
This is one of my things.
A lot of men rubbing their beards and going, you know, Sharon, well, hey, then we're going to do this. And I'm a bit like, oh, okay.
That's the thing I noticed in the beginning. So like, I like all the same things as you do, and I couldn't help but notice the irony of me leaving my Curzon premiere in Mayfair on a Lime bike in my like suede Adidas Gazelles, really thinking about what I thought about this movie. I really like the irony of that. But yeah, I had the same feeling where the ideas of the film were sticking with me after I finished watching it. The film for me really started to get clarity in the last half an hour. So all the things I started to see that Jeff Nichols was doing became clear to me in the half an hour when I started to, I think, really connect with the film's themes. And there's a turning point in the third act which happens, and I thought, oh great, now we have a film. And it kind of just ends the next scene later. I'm not saying that's a problem with the film, but I'm almost thinking you have fantastic ingredients to, like The Godfather, tell a really long 5-hour epic two-parter, because I think there's so much really great groundwork laid. Like, I love the idea of Tom Hardy creating something on a whim, but actually tapping into this element of masculinity in American culture that really strikes a tone with young men. There's a number of scenes where they ride through towns and these young men are like doing something and they just completely are infatuated with this idea, the image of who they are, when really they're just ordinary working class truck drivers. And there's
disaffected men.
So to disaffected men, idle men, alcoholics, drug addicts, wanderers, all of them though are able to come together even though they're from different sides of America. They share this shared idea which I don't even think they can fully articulate, and that to me is really interesting. I did find it very pouty. So especially when the front-loaded in the film is a lot of posing and pouting, and I'm thinking that's great, that's cool, but what's the drama here? And the drama came for me at the end, and I thought, are we going to kick this up a notch? My excitement stayed at a simmer, but the ideas for me are interesting and worth chewing on. So that's kind of where I was maybe a little bit disappointed that I went all the way there and wanted, I think, the next chapter of the story and didn't get it. So there's that sense of the idea is cool, but I didn't feel that nourished by the film.
I think simmer's the right word. It
does
simmered,
simmer.
it never boiled. It just simmers, and that's fine. And it's giving you interesting ideas. It never builds to a punch. Like, so there's one sort of thing, and then it films quite quick over.
Parts of it reminds me of The Fighter with Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg, that like slice of life into a culture and people, like the overlapping dialogue, and these are how like real salt of the earth people connect and revolve around this sport. I did sort of see that connection, but I actually think Tom Hardy's really good. I really like the. I really tell that these actors, I think, got along with each other and had a good connection. There's lots of like bearish physical intimacy between Tom Hardy and Austin Butler, and I was like, I can tell these guys like working together. I can tell they enjoy being in that space. And they also said like we rode bikes around for 4 or 5 weeks before the film. Imagine just like, I would be one of those kids who'd drop his tool if I just saw Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Norman Reedus dressed up on bikes. But anyway, it's like great elements.
Yeah, I think in a way it's strange they didn't play up that kind of Greek tragedy, Godfather structure more.
Lean into it.
Lean into the dramatic bones of it. I understand it's built from a photo essay book, a coffee table book, and it does kind of roam and like that. And part of that is related to the story. You're kind of roaming from town to town. There is an aimlessness with the characters. There's an aimlessness with just being a biker. But it's funny, if people said to me, oh, how's Austin Butler in this? Is like, because it's another Austin Butler movie. He's fine, but it's not his film.
Better in lots of other things.
This is Tom Hardy and Jodie Comer's movie.
Yeah, totally. Like there's lots of interesting. It's like my problem with the first half of the film is we've got interesting scenes where these characters are all together, and a lot of the time I felt like a lot of interesting scenes ended because stupid decisions were made, or someone just got punched in the face and the scene ended. I'm like, that's just another really dumb decision from a very pouty, posy performance. And it's not against Austin Butler in particular, but I'm almost just like I could have kept on going with that scene. There's one moment, which I don't think this is a spoiler, where a character is killed and there's a funeral that happens about halfway through the film, and a load of the bike riders attend and they wear their jackets, and the family of the person who died stops when they get to Tom Hardy's character and they spit on his face. And I think that's a really interesting concept of like the consequence of you banding together and having a cycle of violence. Like I just wanted that next step. Put me into third gear for this film and let's go.
I think I would have also liked more relationship with what their home life was like. So
that great moment with Tom Hardy.
Yeah, there's a great moment with Tom Hardy and his wife.
In the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, with his wife that I'm like, I would, and it says a lot with a very small moment. I totally get it. And it's like they're living two completely different versions of America.
And you see him put on his jacket for the first time,
but
in the domestic setting.
But I wanted to see more because for some of the runtime I was thinking, has he left his family? Do they know he does this?
Does he have a job?
Well, he said he trucked.
Yeah,
is he still
you don't
trucking?
see his
and I think a little
Tuesday
bit more interiority for those characters in their actual lives.
Yeah.
It would have been helpful. But so I think what we're saying is interesting ideas, very handsomely presented. Doesn't ever crescendo into anything much. It's just kind of roams beautifully around. Watch it for a sneakily good Tom Hardy and a really good Jodie Comer, and just to fawn over Austin Butler brooding.
Yeah, and I think we'd be quick to say, Tom Hardy does a lot of sort of gruff alpha, sort of slightly boisterous, could flip at any minute performing. But I think there is a great level of complexity here, and the facade of masculinity. Like, so there's this weird sort of logic where anyone who wants to challenge him as a leader can walk up to him and say, "I'd like to challenge you," and Tom Hardy will go fists or knives, and they're just sort of bound to have a fight. And you can tell the fear and the regret he has as this thing balloons beyond his control. Yeah, interesting ideas.
And he still has that wonderful physicality. He communicates so much just by the way he holds his shoulders. Just the way you can see the physical toll, the weight of it carrying on him. And when you say when he puts on his jacket towards the end, like you're telling me so much.
But an interesting one. Again, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on it, because it could be quite divisive. Some people could say left it feeling quite deflated, or you could feel quite similar to us. It's like great ideas, never got beyond a simmer. So as always, send in your thoughts, your reviews to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, and we will read them out on the show.
But it's like when you look at Jeff Nichols's filmography, I'm like, those look like they should be great films, and I feel like they're all
almost quite
good films. They're all, he's made a lot of quite good films.
Yeah. So. And if you do like photography, like they not only recreated the photos, but like there's, for example, one shot of Austin Butler on a very particular bridge riding, looking back behind him, and it's an exact scene on the exact same bridge in the film. And just watch the credits and see the moments photographed that you can see in the film. I think that was something so many people turned away and walked off to go get a drink. And me and George were just standing there looking at it, going,
we actually had to actually move towards the screen against the flow of traffic to see it. Also, what I forgot to mention is that there is a really nice repeated motif of you hearing the motorbikes before you see them. And in the early parts of the film, you see the reaction on the public. It's sort of like bafflement, sometimes excitement, then fear. And then it's interesting that towards the end of the film, what that sound represents to our main characters about hearing the bike riders before you actually see them. So be interested to hear everyone's thoughts. Like I said, drop us a note. We'd love to hear it more. James, should we move on? Would you like to do some emails?
I'd love to. George, should we go through some of the emails that we get sent into the show every single week? As always, guys, if you want to send in your thoughts, your reviews, your questions, your concerns into the show, you can do by emailing hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, or if you support us at the VIP tier, just like Owen does, you can get your question read out on the show as a priority. Owen writes in and says, "Hi guys, Owen here.
Hello.
VIP Patreon member. Flex on us, Owen.
Get in.
And happy to support you in the show. I work the night shift and your show keeps me going as by myself for large parts of the night."
I will say right now, Owen, don't fall asleep.
Wake up.
Keep going.
Night shift is what?
Oh, yeah.
Let us know.
Obviously, immediately I think medical.
I like to picture you.
Yeah, what are you doing? Maybe you're on a night shift.
Can I also
Scuba
find out
diver.
if any listeners work at cinema, work at the concession stand at cinemas?
I think we have had
I think
some.
we have had some.
Yeah.
I like the idea of our listeners being, on the front lines.
Does anyone do any really working on an oil rig or something?
Yeah.
Does anyone do anything bizarre, not bizarre, but remote, fierce
I always
want to
know if you listen in an interesting place and have you taken our episode to a really remote part of the planet and listened to it? So Fiji, Svalbard,
please,
the Arctic.
Yes, always let us know where you're listening to us.
Yeah, because on our analytics we've got some really weird countries which I assume people are just pinging servers all over the place. Anyway, Owen goes on to say, VIP Owen says, my question is, do you watch some films and something just seems off? You are enjoying a movie, but something about it isn't quite right. Take some reflection to discover why. Normally happens on a film you like, but you don't also like somehow. It's strange. I had this recently with films like The Fall Guy, Hitman, and in the past, The Flash. Love to know if any films spring to mind. Keep up the awesome work, and happy to be a pulper. Owen.
So when you just see a film and it just doesn't quite click for you.
Right. I sort of said this in double take. Matrix 4 for me just didn't feel right, especially after the first 15 minutes. It felt off to me.
I had that with Hitman, definitely. Where it's almost like it's such a strange feeling, but you almost feel like you're watching a film set at the wrong speed.
Yeah.
Where the way people talk seems strange. The way they move seems strange. Nothing is quite real. There's some part of your brain that's saying to you, this doesn't feel organic.
Yeah, it feels weird. Or the new Jason Bourne films. I'm always it doesn't quite hit the same way as
happening here?
Bourne's 1 to 3.
It's kind of ill-defined.
It's too it was too aware of itself. It's people love these Jason Bourne movies. Let's make more. When really when you made the first 3, it was because you were just making it. Yeah. The self-aware prequel.
It's a strange quality to have, but it does happen, Owen.
Yeah, it does. Owen, thank you for your question and as always for your support.
I would say also that is what I had with Hitman, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
I was just kind of what's going on here? Something's not quite gelling me.
Yeah.
And speaking of Hitman, Adam, friend of the show, Adam writes in about Hitman and says, hi, James and George. Hope you're doing well. I'm listening to episode 132 and I have to say, regarding Hitman, with George, I completely agree with you. I remember James's rave review last year and told many of my friends to keep an eye out for it on Netflix. I sat down, prepared with snacks, and sadly felt the film to be totally lackluster. I never laughed, although I smirked at some of the costumes, which, by the way, were wasted, considering they were so prominent in trailers and posters. As George said, it's a comedy without any jokes, aside from some facial expressions here and there. Glenn Powell is having fun, and Adria Iona was very charming, but beyond that, Hitman gave me very little. It was boring, tame, and lent into no genre enough to describe it as any. The interrogation scene and the was good. However, Hitman was a miss, man. Sorry about that one.
That's good.
Thank you, Adam. And Adam goes on to write about Inside Out 2, where he just quickly says, on the other hand, that was beautiful. I was nervous about a sequel to one of Pixar's modern classics, but I found I need not have been worried. It was just as creative, funny, profound, and raw as the first film. Maya Hawke lends her brilliant voice to the adorable anxiety. Ayo Edebiri is electric as always. I'm a big fan of Parks and Rec, so great to hear Amy Poehler as always. Yeah. I found myself feeling deeply moved by the end, and the animation reminded me of the first Wreck-It Ralph, the good one. Yes, minor spoiler, there's a character which warmed my soul. Eager to hear what you think. Well, here we are today.
Yeah, it did get me a little bit in the throat.
It did.
I wasn't sobbing.
But it made me, I thought, oh God, being a teenager is really hard.
Yeah.
God, it is strange.
And it really, all of Riley's actions, which are affected by the emotions taking control, I'm that really makes sense. Yep. That totally, how they do, what would be considered a panic attack.
Yes,
and other things where you just let that emotion take control. It really works.
Yeah, manage and what a lovely way of delivering a message. It's not soppy. That's just let's talk about this anxiety and how we can handle it.
Didn't overdo it. So similarly, consequently, other people writing in on Hitman. Caitlin writes in with Hitman thoughts, says, hi, James and George. Hope this email finds you well. I've been a loyal listener of your podcast for some time now, and I always enjoy your insightful reviews and lively discussions about films. Looking forward to your upcoming best films of the noughties, which will be coming soon.
It's coming soon.
With us. Can we get more of Rory and Alistair's analysis of fake sci-fi politics, please? We will continue to throw it in. Very quickly, chocolate room temp, except on hot holidays.
Okay.
Right, and then chips are essential with a burger.
Well, you're just good for you.
Fair enough. I recently watched Hitman, and I just had to share my thoughts with you. To put it simply, I absolutely loved it. Hitman was everything I was looking for an easy comedy romance. The blend of humour and heart was spot on. Me and my partner were loving the second half and laughing till the end. I will agree with you guys about the sirens on our end.
There's a lot today.
It's been bad recently.
What's happening?
I will agree with you guys about the last scene where the film seems to just end. I agree with you. Powell and are we saying Arjona?
I was saying Iona.
Powell and Iona had great chemistry. Without spoiling anything, that scene where the two of them have to work together to convince everyone was just brilliant, brilliant fun and so well executed. It was refreshing to see a storyline that felt both fun and meaningful without falling into the usual cliches or needing to try and reinvent the romance genre like so many films do these days. The film struck a perfect balance, making it an enjoyable watch for anyone who appreciates a good laugh and a heartfelt romance. Can't express how happy I am to get this podcast every week. James gave me a heart attack when he joked about Pulp Kitchen having to end, and I was eating pasta at the time and genuinely stopped chewing when I thought it was all ending. All the best, Kate. Sorry, that was fun to do. But yeah, I think that I think we have seen with the romantic comedy films, some of them feel like they have to be so subversive, too self-aware. We're going to take the classic thing but subvert it. It's almost like you're carrying the burden of all of these films that were better in a better time, and it's nice to just not have that on your shoulders for this film, which I appreciate. But Caitlin, thank you for your email.
Similarly, Sean writes in about Hitman and says, "Hey lads, Sean here. I think it's Sean. It could be Sean, but I think it's Sean.
Could be Sian.
Could be Sian.
Sean.
Hey lads, Sean here, long-time viewer, first-time writer, writing to you from Ireland in County Waterford. I just watched your review of Hitman, and I have to say that I strongly agree with James, and I unfortunately disagree with George. I understand why George thinks the film is overhyped, and I do find myself agreeing with the fact that this that I believe that this is the problem with films that do a big festival run a while before their theatrical release, especially when they have big names attached to the project. I believe movies like this often run the risk of being labelled as overhyped when a lot of people have already seen the movie, like James has. Yeah. With regards to the review, I personally never found myself underwhelmed by the film. I think at this stage in his career, Linklater knows exactly how to keep his audience engaged, and even though his films float along quite effortlessly, he is able to keep the narrative sharp and immersive. For example, if it hadn't been for Madison's introduction to the story, I probably would have felt lost and been tempted to give up, much like George. However, the minute the two's chemistry is sparked, I'm glued to the screen on a different level than I was previously. Yeah, their chemistry is great. I agree. I enjoyed what you said about Richard Linklater's comedian-like ability with his direction, but I believe his trademark style is often evident in his writing and his passionate collaboration with his actors in the writing process and the on-set character development. I agree with that. I believe the themes and ideas are very palatably explored, which is ideal for Netflix since many of their projects are very on the surface and underwhelming, except for Ripley, obviously. However, I do agree that Netflix should do more in order to make sure films like this don't gather dust on the dark shelves of the streaming side. That's absolutely true. Anyway, keep up the good work, lads. I'll be happy to join the Patreon when I finish my leaving certification exams. If you have any good post-exam film recommendations for me, I'd love that. Film. Apologies for the long email. The only one I can think of is the scene in Perks Being a Wallflower when they finish graduation. They float, throw their papers up in the air, and they run up to the bleachers, and they're like, "Yay!" I know that's high school, but maybe do that.
I was going to say something that switch your brain off that's fun. You've just been studying and stuck inside.
Oh, yeah.
I like the idea thematically, but I was more like, just switch off.
Yeah.
Do stuff you enjoy, some dumb fun.
You don't need to go watch a Tarkovsky movie.
Switch your brain off.
Watch something light, lovely, and
it's like just on his comments about...
Dazed and Confused, actually, since you're talking about... If you're talking about Linklater.
Because sometimes coming of age stuff can be a bit too like, oh my God, my whole childhood's ending. You know what I mean? Just on comments on Linklater style, it's like when you think about Madison as a character, she's completely insane and unhinged. And I think in other directors' hands, you'd be like, sorry, this character's just ridiculous. And in that film, she actually skirts by quite a lot. Like some of the justifications for wanting to hire a hitman, you're like, that's a jump.
And also like so many things about her character like become like such a male fantasy, like such a male case.
I agree with that too.
But the way that it's kind of written, it kind of manages to bounce that off.
The film's not serious. When you're looking at him dress up as all the hitmen, you're like, oh, okay, we're not taking all of this too seriously. I did like the Patrick Bateman hitman.
Yeah, sort of does that. Nobody ever commits suicide.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Sean.
Next one is from Craig, who says, "Good day, gents. I have to say, I totally agree with George on the Hitman review.
Here we go.
My boyfriend and I sat down to watch it. Very excited to see Glenn Powell in lots of crazy situations and costumes, but this really fell short of expectations, and we found it barely entertaining. I wish there had been a decision on if this is a rom-com or action-com, because half and half didn't work. Also, why do straight people love a murder romance? I love you so much I would kill for you is not love. It is a sign of a psychopath. Wake up. If this is the standard of love you're looking for, reevaluate." I wanted more Patrick Bateman impressions and to learn more about English Ginger, Edna Mode, Jeffrey Dahmer looking character.
Oh yeah, that was quite good.
That was funny. Hats off to Glenn for the variety of characters. They were the best parts of the movie. Love Craig. Yeah, Glenn really does come into his own as an actor for me. He's you know what's great is that he's had He's had, I think, like commercial success, Anyone But You, and massive success, Top Gun Maverick. He's done this, which is, mixed, but either way, probably will go down as a success for him in his career. He's about to come out
on the cusp of something big.
He's about to do Twisters, which I saw a trailer for in the IMAX when I saw Furiosa, and I finished that trailer. I thought, holy shit, that looks compelling.
Yeah.
And
compelling, I love that.
That is,
man.
For a film about chasing tornadoes, I
yeah.
thought, do you know what? And he's in that, and if that does well, he's just right at the top.
A film like Twisters is so it's built into cinema history. You used to get the big disaster flicks of the 50s. So it's proven that people used to love to go to the cinema to see this stuff.
But now we have all the magnitude of large format cinematography, IMAX. I'm like, I kind of up for Twisters. We need to watch the original as per.
Oh, we do.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe that's coming out in a month.
Queue up a rewatch. Okay, we should get that in.
And this email from Dan who says, Dear James and George, Hitman is great. Glenn Powell proves, as if there were any doubters, that he's Hollywood's leading man of the moment and hopefully for much longer. Adria Iona is also incredible, and he's hoping this role will propel her to better things and less Morbius-type roles. Maybe she was in Morbius, I don't know. The character work is incredibly smart, but especially does a great job of breaking down the somewhat dense psychological theory into something easy to understand as a viewer. I felt rewarded for seeing such a great character arc develop right in front of me without needing it to be spelt out. The chemistry that Powell and Iona have is palpable, and both are just able to pull you into this hot, steamy romance so much ease that you never want to leave. It's just a shame Netflix got their hands on this one. A theatrical release was more than warranted. Sorry for the length. All the best. Excited to see this next chapter come to fruition in regards to our Patreon. Dan from Brisbane, Australia. P.S. They really thought putting Glenn Powell in an oversized shirt would make him less of a hunk, eh?
Just one size too big. He's a dork. That's all of our correspondence on thing.
On Hitman.
That is easily the most divided any film we've covered on the show and asked people to write in about has been.
It's so interesting.
It's really, you could never have called it.
Because it is a bit of an outlier. Like I said with regards to the previous email about a film that just feels kind of strange, doesn't quite click with you, because it is slightly outside of the mold. It's dealing with a genre that has a very set
multiple
formula.
genres.
It kind of is touching around, which is working for some people and working for other ones. So,
well, there you go, guys. Thank you, as always, for sending in your emails to the show. We love to read them out and hear from you. If you want to send your email into the show, you can do by emailing into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, or if you support us at the VIP tier on Patreon, you can have your email guaranteed to be read out on the show. So please go and check out Patreon for that and other things as well. Should we move on to the games?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So, James, we conclude, again, another week with the sound games. We love playing it. We love listening to it. We love doing it afterwards.
We love playing the games, because otherwise...
It's not worth it.
What's a game if you're not having fun?
And, I did touch in with our Discorders just to see if people, if it was working for them on the episode, and everyone said, it's a great game. If you want to get
access to our Discord, as always, please check out Patreon.
So, James, I have 8. I think I have 8. Oh, no, 7 sounds for you.
7 sounds.
7 sounds for you. And I've tried to move them harder. Yeah, as we move on.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard to know which ones you'll get instantly and which ones you'll think. And as ever, when you're preparing them, you think they're a lot easier than they actually are.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn.
And also, there are weird moments in films that just for some reason just stick to your brain.
Yeah.
And you'll quote it forever, and you're like, "What? You don't know that bit from that film?" And they'll be like, "Well, no, I don't.
No, I don't memorize it like me. Yeah.
That scream." Okay,
James, are you ready for your first sound?
Yes.
Guess the movie from the sound.
You had a sexy face?
It meant nothing. I didn't think it would count.
It meant nothing?
I was just a little bi-curious.
Well, honey, I'm a little bi-furious.
It's not like Sucker Punch or something like that.
No.
It's not.
Lighter than that.
It's not like Powerpuff Girls.
No, but...
Bi-furious. It's really familiar. Hold on.
Once more?
It's not animated, is it?
No.
Oh, it's not like Bottoms, is it?
No.
No. Okay, go one more time.
You had a sexy face?
It meant nothing. I didn't think it would count.
It meant nothing?
I was just a little bi-curious.
Well, honey, I'm a little bi-furious.
It's not Scott Pilgrim?
Yes,
oh,
it's
it
Scott
is.
Pilgrim. Well done. Yeah. So the voice at the beginning is Michael Cera say, "You had a sexy face."
Oh,
it's
I barely heard him.
So it's one of the exes, and it's the only girl ex. So at first you doesn't
Powerpuff
realise.
Girls almost. It's barking up the right tree.
Animation, Powerpuff Girls. It's right in that kind of playful element. Yeah.
I need to rewatch Scott Pilgrim. I think I
good.
saw it like 3 times when I was Like, when did it come out?
2010.
So yeah, I would have seen it 3 times in like 2011 to 2012 when I was watching it, and I've just not seen it in a really long time.
Well, first time I watched it, I really didn't get it. Really annoyed me. And then
Me too.
5 years later, I watched it. Really clicked. Are you ready for your next sound?
Yes, let's do it.
Guess the movie from the sound.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
Okay, so that's Julie Andrews, the voice of Julie.
No.
Hold on. And I can't stand him. It's an old film.
Old film, yeah. We haven't done an old one in a while.
And I can't stand him. It's not like Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
No.
It's not. Okay, give it to me one more time.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
Think of the setup of that scene.
Yeah,
Why
it's
would
like
it be-
correcting pronunciation. It's not My Fair Lady. It's
all logical answers, but
yeah.
not correct.
I can't stand him, and I can't stand him. It's an older woman speaking to a younger woman. It's not Mary Poppins.
No.
It's not.
Right era.
Yeah.
Very famous film. Very famous film.
No, go on. What is it?
That is from Singing in the Rain.
Oh, okay. I mean, I've
it's
seen that barely.
I know, but
yeah.
it's so. Obviously, when I thought of Singing in the Rain, I couldn't do anything to do with the main musical number because it's just so obvious.
yeah.
But this is the dialect coach with the lead actor, and she's because it's everything. It's being turned to sound. It's the whole point.
Yeah.
The movie's turning into sound, and she has this horrible accent, and she's seeing this diction coach. We
Nice.
talked about it a little
Beautiful
bit last year
voice.
when we did Babylon. It was about the same sort of era of
Brilliant
transition
scene
to
in Babylon.
Yeah,
I would say it's worth rewatching Babylon for that scene, but it's so fucking long.
no. It is.
It's
so long.
like, no, I will just YouTube that scene in my own time. Thank you very much.
So that was Singing in
Singing
the
in the
Rain.
Rain.
Are you ready for your next sound?
Yes, ready.
Guess the movie from the sound.
I'm taking the dog. Dumbass.
I know that. I know exactly who it is, but it's like it's still
Yeah.
Jennifer Coolidge.
Yes.
and I'm taking the dog.
So close.
I'm so close to this. What the fuck is it? Taking the dog. It's not Click. It's not. Okay, one more time.
I'm taking the dog. Dumbass.
Really, I can picture everything but the title of the film. It's not like Cinderella Story.
No.
No, go on.
That's Legally Blonde. So it's,
You know what? I've only seen Legally Blonde like twice, easily 20 years ago.
Right. Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
she befriends Jennifer Coolidge, and Jennifer Coolidge is down on her luck, and her husband's kicked her out in a motorhome, and he's kept the dog, and then she takes her back there, and Elle Woods is able to use her legal knowledge
Yeah.
to sort of basically allow Jennifer Coolidge to reclaim her dog, and then
Nice.
that's when she says, "Yeah, I'm taking the
the
dog,
dog,
dumbass,"
dumbass.
in a wonderful Jennifer Coolidge way.
Is Legally Blonde 1, does it still hold up? Because I've not seen it in a really long time.
I saw it for the first time about 3-4 years ago. Loved it.
loved it.
So,
Great,
so I think
nice.
I've heard the second one not so much.
Fine, I've seen it.
But the
I
first one, yeah,
Nice.
I think
Great,
it holds
great,
up.
great.
James, are you ready for your next sound?
Born ready.
What are you doing?
Just want to shake around.
Is you? You a proper little skinhead then, yeah?
God, I didn't hear the first 2 lines of dialogue.
It's not necessarily relevant.
Skinhead,
It's just more priming you.
Just one more time, please.
What are you doing?
Just want to shake around.
Is you? You a proper little skinhead then, yeah?
Is it Billy Elliot?
No. Think of the accent. Yeah. Do you know who the actor is who's speaking that? No. It's an actor we like, an actor who has that accent. Scouse.
Is it Stephen Graham?
Yes.
In
Why would he make that remark at the end? In what film would he say to someone about that, about their appearance?
I'm not sure I know. What film is he in?
So that last line.
You a proper little skinhead then, yeah?
I don't think you have this. I'm going to tell
No,
you.
what is it?
That is from Shane Meadows' movie This Is England.
Oh, see, I've not seen This Is England.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
but there you
no,
go.
I know.
But very famous, great. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe our international listeners haven't caught this film, which was a kind of iconic noughties British film
Yeah.
about 1980s skinheads,
culture,
about a kid who's kind of disaffected. I think his dad's been killed in the Falklands War.
What does the kid say in that clip?
I just wanted to have a kick around, I think
Oh,
that's what he
okay,
says.
that's it, yeah.
And he kind of gets taken into this gang of guys who look after him, and they're sort of innocently touching around skinhead culture, which is just a way of having an identity. But then Stephen Graham's character kind of turns up and represents the much darker, racist, right-wing element of skinhead culture in the 80s. And it's this very uncomfortable scene because one of their group is black, and Stephen Graham comes in and tells this like really racist story about when he was in prison with a black inmate. And it's this very awkward tension. And like with the Bikeriders, I suppose, it begins as like an idealistic way of breaking away from main society, but then gets tainted with horrible things.
Yeah.
So that was This Is England. Are you ready for your next sound?
Yes.
Guess the movie from the sound.
I know there are women like my best friends who would have gotten out of there the minute their boyfriend gave them a gun to hide. But I didn't. I gotta admit the truth. It turned me on.
Give me a gun to hide. Turn me on. No, go on. Recognize
You
it.
can't maybe interpret her accent, what she's talking about. You don't
I
have
recognize it, but I can't. I don't know if I've seen it.
That is from Goodfellas. That is the scene in which,
I've
sorry,
seen it.
but where Ray Liotta's girlfriend, played by Melfi, I can't remember her name, Lauren Melfi, that's the actor, who this preppy guy from across the street, her neighbor tried to hit on her or did something bad.
Yeah, I remember.
And he's got a really like lovely red Cadillac, like convertible car in his driveway. So Ray Liotta goes over and basically smashes the guy's face in, and then walks back over. It's all done, I think, in one shot. He smashes his face in, then walks back across the street, walks to the front door where she stood, puts the revolver in her hand, which is covered in blood from smashing it, and he says, "Yeah, hide this for me, okay? You good? Great." And it's like, and she says, "Yeah, most people would have run a mile, but what can I say? It kind of turned me on." And she's like, stays in this kind of mob life. Again, another wise side female character like Jodie Comer in this.
Totally.
Diane Keaton in the Godfather.
It was evoking the Comer thing a lot.
Yeah.
There.
Okay, James, you've got 2 more sounds.
Let's do it.
Are you ready for your next sound?
Yes.
Guess the movie from the sound.
What thou drawn among these heartless hinds?
So we've got sounds of bullets, of a revolver coming out there. And then one more time, please.
What thou drawn among these heartless hinds?
No, I don't have it.
So, you sure? Okay.
Don't recognize it.
That is the opening, very frenetic scene of Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet at the petrol station, where they're all pointing guns at each other, and then John Leguizamo, that's why I included his voice there, John Leguizamo steps out as Tybalt, and they're all pointing the guns at each other, and he lights a cigarette with a match, drops the match. He's got these sort of like almost like tap shoes, these metal caps. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've seen Romeo and Juliet. They showed it to us at school.
I've never got that. I've seen it once.
All right, and he smushes out a cigarette, and then he's sort of, and in his mistakable voice, "What among these heartless hinds?" And he does start to do Shakespearean language,
nice.
But it's very much infused with a Western. You know,
totally. The whistling, the wind, gun. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know whether you get it, but
no, it's fine.
Thought we'd change it up. We've got to change different movies each week, guys. Okay.
I remember seeing that in snippets at school, and then properly once.
So far, James, I think you've only got one sound, which was Scott Pilgrim. This is our last sound now.
Last sound.
It's our most abstract, but I have a feeling that you will get it.
Okay.
Are you ready for your next sound? In fact,
Yes.
I'm just going to make sure I turn it up extra high for you. Are you ready for your next sound?
Yes. Cages rattling. Prison, something.
No.
One more time.
That music?
Yeah. It's familiar.
Oh.
Really trying to think. No, go on. What is it?
That is, I'm sorry, I thought you would get it, and I didn't want to actually include much more because that is the opening scene of GoldenEye, where he's running across the dam.
Why?
Because I think you love GoldenEye, right? And
Yeah,
it's the very
but-
distinctive sound of the, wait for it,
It's like cut the
music
thing.
and that. sort of metallic,
yeah,
that bomb, and also
it's a
Nintendo
good
64,
GoldenEye,
the
yeah.
GoldenEye one. I did have an easier one, but I thought I wanted to believe that you could get it.
Yeah, still just chimes and footsteps, but yeah, sure.
This is the thing. It's hard. That's why I wanted to keep most of them with dialogue. But
Yeah,
without dialogue, it is hard.
Great. So literally, he's about to jump off the dam.
The opening shot. You have the plane going over the dam, and then it cuts to the gate opening, and he runs past, and then he clips up and does that.
The Lotsa Dam. Nice.
Anyway, James.
Great.
A harder one for you this week, but still just as fun, wasn't it?
Great fun. Love it. Tickles my ears.
Yes.
Tickles my whole brain.
I hope you enjoyed that at home as well. Well, this brings us to the end of episode 133.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. Don't forget we post new episodes of this show every single Wednesday.
And if you're a Patreon member, you get this episode ad-free. And also, depending on your tier, you get access to our whole new show, Double Take, which we mentioned earlier, and lots of other perks as well. So don't forget to check that out. But also, continue, please, to follow and support us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, etc. We post lots of lovely pics from the premieres and the screenings we go to. It's very fun. Post film bites with people. It's just a really great place to be.
Come join and watch Double Take. We're really enjoying doing that new show. It is exclusive to Patreon, so if you want to go and check it out, please join. And you get access to all the old Double Takes.
It's only
growing in value.
The back catalogue of Patreon is just growing each time. Other
See
than
you
that,
next week.
Hope you have a great week, guys, and just stay well.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.